Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ocean Beach. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. I'm joined today by a number of folks I admire greatly, good friends, and people who are great public servants for San Diego. Started out with our Senate President Pro Tem, Toni Atkins, our Assembly Member, Chris Ward, our City Council President, Dr. Jennifer Campbell, and Council Member for District 9, Sean Elo Rivera. We are here this morning at the Ocean Beach Pier to highlight some of the San Diego projects and priorities, including this iconic pier that have received millions of dollars in the state budget signed just last week. Peninsula Pause. Yes. Thanks to Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, along with the state legislature's prudent fiscal stewardship, the state is investing in local communities up and down California, including San Diego. Now, we are here today to list a number of the projects and programs that have been funded, and no one deserves more credit for this accomplishment than San Diego's own Toni Atkins, who fought hard to bring these dollars home. With the assistance of the other members of our delegation, including Assemblymember Ward, Senator Atkins has done a lot to bring home funding that we so desperately need here in San Diego. I want to give you a little bit of history. I'm going to brag on my senator for just a moment, if you'll allow me. When Toni was elected to the legislature in 2011, the state was facing a $26 billion deficit. Through her leadership as both the Speaker of the Assembly and now as the Senate President Pro Tem, she has put herself in a position to influence how the state manages money and how much of those dollars flow back to her home district. Through her leadership, she has made us so very, very proud. And since becoming the Senate leader in 2018, because of her leadership, because of her deep involvement with the governor and the speaker in the development of our state budget, she has put California back on a strong financial footing. The budget she's worked with, along with Governor Newsom and Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon, has shored up the state's reserves and invested in programs that lift Californians up and move California forward. And this year's budget sets a new high bar. The budget that the governor just signed last week includes more than $220 million worth of projects throughout San Diego County, mostly within the city of San Diego. I want to be clear, that number actually doesn't even include programmatic funds for statewide allocations, such as the $12 billion over several years to combat homelessness, including $1 billion sent directly to cities. For that pot of money, we estimate that the city of San Diego will receive at least $27 million to address homelessness over the next 2 years. That is a game changer, and that's the direct result of our state delegation. The state's leadership and financial strength have put us in a great position to build back boldly from the pandemic and to create opportunity in all of our communities. Our representatives in Sacramento are leading by providing funding for things like the Golden State stimulus checks to low and middle income households, rent relief for struggling renters and homeowners, small business relief for local small businesses like many just here on Newport, wildfire prevention, combating climate change, drought resiliency, water supply, affordable housing, and cleaning up along our state roadways. The list goes on and on and on, and you're going to hear a little bit more about those in a moment. But I want to be clear, these are real dollars. These are dollars that are going to help us tackle some of our short-term challenges resulting from the pandemic and our economic downturn, as well as some of the long-standing challenges that we've wanted to tackle here in San Diego. This will enhance equity by focusing these funds in some of San Diego's most underserved communities. And most importantly, this is going to lift a lot of folks up. We've got a tough year, and the number of our challenges continue. But with these investments, what we know is that people's lives will be better, folks will be lifted up, many people will get jobs that desperately need them, and a lot of our neighborhoods will look a heck of a lot better. As I've mentioned, this is due a lot of credit due to our state delegation, but as I mentioned before, no one more so than our Senate President Pro Tem, Toni Atkins. I'm pleased to introduce her now and ask her to say a few words. Senator Atkins?
Well, good morning, and Mayor Gloria, thank you. It is great to be home on a beautiful day in San Diego. Every morning I'm waking up being home from Sacramento. I'm so excited. Mayor Gloria, I want to thank you, and as I stand here with colleagues at the local and state level, I just want to say Todd and Chris and I have all been on the city council, and so we were trained by the best, and that is our community members who help us understand what the priorities are. So it's a good moment. It feels good, and I'm going to be a little bit repetitive because, you know, when we actually stay focused and we bring dollars home to our community for projects that you care about, we should celebrate that. And again, thanks to the community who gave me the foundation to go to Sacramento and understand why I'm there and be successful when we can together to bring it home. So I'm thrilled to be here with these incredible colleagues. And as Todd said, I'm not quiet, that's for sure. I can compete with the planes. This past year, has really been unlike any other, to say the least. But now there really is light at the end of a dark tunnel in the form of this year's state budget, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform California's future. And as Todd said, 10 years ago, I voted for my first state budget, and now a decade of really hard work and responsible budgeting, combined, let me say, with robust federal stimulus actions and support, has put us in a position to deliver the most responsible and equitable state budget in modern history. We're investing in families, as Todd said. Can I call you Todd?
Yes, you
okay.
Can.
By providing, although I do love saying Mayor Gloria, by providing middle-class $600 stimulus checks regardless of immigration status, and an additional $500 for families with children. As Todd said, our small businesses will benefit from $5 billion for grant opportunities and immediate relief. We're investing in our education system from pre-kindergarten through higher education, including community colleges, Council Member, our former community college board member. In fact, K through 12 funding is at $21,152 per student from all sources, federal, state, and local taxes. That is a record amount of funding. And no child will have to go to a Taco Bell parking lot to get their schoolwork done. The state has passed an historic $6 billion broadband package to expand our fiber infrastructure that will benefit generations of Californians, including right here in San Diego. We've extended the eviction moratorium through September 30th, allowing both landlords and renters to get back on their feet, covering 100% of back rent. We've funded $50 million to a historic tax credit that I created with legislation SB 451 in 2019, and that's for expenses associated with the cost to preserve and rehabilitate historic buildings for housing, something San Diego cares a great deal about in our state. This budget makes huge investments in San Diego as a region, with millions of dollars directly benefiting our communities, our parks, our libraries, small businesses, nonprofit organizations, as our neighborhood infrastructure enhancements. One of the most pressing issues, you've heard the mayor talk about it again and again, is that this budget helps address homelessness. I'm pleased to say we were able to make record-level investments to address this crisis on our streets. The budget allocates a total of $12 billion in new funding over 2 years for California, including, as Todd said, $1 billion in support for local governments to address homelessness for the next 2 years. That's $1 billion this year and next year. The San Diego region will benefit from $100 million over 2 years, with the city of San Diego to receive $27.3 million in year one. This pandemic has also shown us the importance of our healthcare infrastructure. To that end, this budget includes $30 million in investment for the Phase 1 development and construction of a brand new replacement hospital in Hillcrest. The new medical facility from UC San Diego will complement the university's vision for a new healthcare campus to include housing. And when it comes to health, we're right here as we look at our oceans. Our partners at UC San Diego Scripps Institute for Oceanography, who are renowned for their work on climate change, will benefit from a $35 million allocation to build a brand new research vessel. The new ship will replace a 40-year-old ship that's taken countless students to conduct research on plastics in our oceans and other groundbreaking science in climate change. In terms of other infrastructure investments, you're looking at it right now. This iconic pier. The Ocean Beach Pier is a landmark for our region, enjoyed by locals and visitors alike. But after decades of rising tides and waves, it's in dire need of repair. This budget allocates $8.4 million to the city of San Diego to begin a capital improvement project to reconstruct the pier so it can remain a community asset. Thank you, Assembly Member. This was one we tag teamed together on. It's critical infrastructure projects to ensure public access, maintain tourism, and support our local businesses. And speaking of infrastructure, a word you're going to hear a lot from a couple of us, another key investment we've made is to work to bolster our water supply. With less rainfall statewide, water issues are top of mind for Californians and for my colleagues and I in the Senate and our colleagues here locally. This year's budget includes $50 million in funding for the region's Pure Water Project. The City of San Diego has a goal to provide 1/3 of the city's water through recycled pure water by 2035. These funds will bring us a step closer. The budget also includes an $18 million investment in the San Vicente Pump Station, a bold renewable energy storage. This project will create over 1,000 jobs and is estimated to provide enough energy for 135,000 households. San Diego doing our part. The beauty of this budget is that we can establish equity in ways we've never before in our own backyard. One of those projects I want to highlight is Chollas Creek. Thank you, Council Member. Thanks to the efforts of Mayor Gloria and Council Member Sean Elo Rivera. Wait for it. A 20-mile area of the creek will soon be designated as a regional park. Chollas Creek will receive $3.1 million from the state to treat stormwater runoff entering the creek through the construction of new green infrastructure. New curbing, gutters, ramps, and street resurfacing will ensure further protection of San Diego's precious watershed. As we focus on recovery from the pandemic, we cannot forget about the arts that sustained us during the very difficult last year and a half. So many of our arts institutions had to close their doors during the pandemic. This budget allocates $50 million to administer grants for nonprofit performing arts organizations. And I'm pleased to say that $3 million has been allocated to our latest iconic venue, the San Diego Symphony's new Rady Shell at Jacobs Park, which will provide us with a new way to experience music like never before. And $35 million for the renovation and remodel of a historic theater and community room at the San Diego complex of Continuing Education's Educational Cultural Complex. You know that well. And along with the arts, our libraries will get one of the largest economic boosts in decades, including our Logan Library, which will receive $2.4 million for a restoration project. And speaking of libraries, we all know how important libraries are to San Diegans. And I am so pleased that we were able to push and get the largest single investment in libraries across the state in decades, $400 million for libraries in the state, of which San Diego will be well prepped to go after some of those dollars. You will remember Dee Dee Alpert brought us $20 million for the downtown library to get it done. So I fully expect San Diego to take advantage of that opportunity for our libraries in our communities here. So in closing, I want to let you know that my colleagues and I have spent a lot of time listening to our communities to understand your priorities for important projects and our local leaders. It's a product of a great partnership we have had with the Assembly, and we have a strong budget to show for it. And Chris and I are here today, but I want you to know there's even more projects that were funded that we're not talking about, that other members of our delegation were able to get into this budget. The Food Bank, Jewish Family Services, so many other organizations that are doing incredible work here. But we couldn't have done it without the partnership, and I am so pleased to introduce my Assembly member, someone who has worked very hard to bring this to fruition as well, my colleague, Assembly Member Chris Ward.
Great. Well, thank you, Senator Atkins, and good morning, everybody, on this bright and perfect but a little bit humid day. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. It's really a pleasure to be back in the district as we begin our summer recess, and we're working so hard to get out to our communities and give them the updates on some of the things that we're doing on behalf of them at the state capitol, and really look forward to the coming weeks ahead to finish the job. And despite these really dangerous times, we have not skipped a beat and been hard at work at our state capitol to make these investments in our community to support our longstanding needs and to lift up all Californians. From early actions on rental assistance, small business support, vaccination strategies, and school funding, we took quick steps to put our state resources right back into this community to help families hard hit by the pandemic. And in the months leading up to the state budget decision, a combination of fiscal responsibility, federal support, and local delegation leadership allowed us to make these unprecedented advancements in public support. Finally, school meals and universal transitional kindergarten will be available to all Californians. Medi-Cal is expanded to all those over 50 years of age. Affordable housing investments will be scaled up significantly to alleviate and work for those who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. And wildfire, drought, and other climate change consequences will receive dramatic support for our resilient programs. And there are a number of other services and programs that the legislature proposed that will help California build back boldly under Governor Newsom. As the Assembly's Majority Whip, it was my pleasure to work alongside our San Diego delegation and make sure that our budget was strong, aligned with our priorities, and passed on time. San Diego, as you heard, has had a number of regional wins. So most notably, and we are here, of course, to celebrate the Ocean Beach Pier, a beloved asset here for the Ocean Beach community, but one that is regional in nature, that attracts more than 500,000 visitors a year for fishing, for our families, or just for its beautiful views. Unfortunately, because of the effects of climate change, the pier has been placed under a lot of duress from those winter storms, those king tide events that have been battering these rails and really challenging the stability of this infrastructure here. So we want to make sure that our future generations can enjoy it. Not far from here, the Billie Jean King tennis courts owned by the city will be revitalized, helping youth recreation remain a priority so our next generation will have the opportunities to rise nationally like those before. From Balboa Park to Chicano Park to state investments in Old Town and Torrey Pines State Parks, we are proud to protect our natural and cultural resources. We're helping our local food banks, water and energy storage projects, successful gun violence reduction programs, our community college facilities, and so much more. And we are especially fortunate, and I know we're going to all underscore this here today, to have the leadership of our own Senator and Senate President Pro Tem Toni Atkins for helping to bring these major investments. Her strong voice for this community has been just a gold mine, a huge resource up in Sacramento. Her leadership in these budget negotiations helped us secure the needed funds for not just this pier, but also Scripps Institute, University of California at San Diego Medical Center, local wildfire mapping systems, the Del Mar Fairgrounds, our bluffs, and so much more. And so, as I mentioned, as we start our summer recess, I am really looking forward to returning to our capital soon after these next couple of weeks of community input to finish the important policy work that we must do and continue to advocate for San Diego's needs. And I would also never take an opportunity to miss, especially in these really challenging times, and remember, with everybody watching at home, that we are not out of the woods on this pandemic yet. And you have not had the opportunity to get yourself vaccinated, please do. And also remember that it's important to get yourself tested even if you have become vaccinated, because we are starting to see some of the numbers rise. And the underpinnings of our economy are our people. And we want to make sure that public health and public safety is foremost in everybody's mind. We can continue to be able to move California forward and have a continued robust state budget so we can do even more next year if we are taking seriously these hopefully last months of this pandemic crisis, if everybody does their part and watches out for each other. So with that, at this time, I would like to bring up our local city council president, Jennifer Campbell, who will talk about a few of the important things that this state work is going to be able to do for the city of San Diego. Dr. Campbell.
Thank you. No problem. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. It's just delightful to see everyone on this gorgeous day. as Chris said, I'm the council president, Jennifer Campbell, and I'm proud to represent Ocean Beach and all of District 2 at City Hall. Today we're gathered in front of the OB Pier, one of San Diego's most recognizable and beloved landmarks, a landmark in desperate need of funding. Over the last few years, the OB Pier has been battered by storms, king tides, rising sea levels, and decades of wear and tear. Twice since I've been in office, we've had to temporarily close the pier and get it checked to be sure it was safe for people to use. Unfortunately, we've had to close the section that's furthest out. Mayor Gloria and I have been advocating for funding to help us build a better future for the pier, and thankfully our great friends in Sacramento, Leader of the Senate President Pro Tem Toni Atkins, and our Assembly Member Chris Ward have ensured that we have received $8.5 million in this state budget to get started. I'm thankful for their dedication to our community's future. And I also want to thank them for the $2.5 million for the Youth Tennis San Diego, the nonprofit organization that runs the Barnes Tennis Center in the OB Point Loma area, as well as putting the library money into the budget. We know here in OB, the library for 15, 20 years has been seeking to expand. We have the land, we have the building to annex to do it, we have the plans. The city's actually gotten the plans done since I came to council. And even in this year's budget, we added $600,000 more toward that project. And now we will be asking for state funds and really lift it off the ground, and let's get the OB library remodeled and rebuilt. So today's gathering of elected officials shows what can happen when we're all on the same page working to meet the needs of San Diegans. This budget provides $220 million for the San Diego region, with the lion's share going to the city.
Welcome to San Diego.
That's money that will make material difference in the lives of so many. And while we're standing in front of the largest structure included in the budget for San Diego, there's so much more, from housing to homelessness to clean water. We'll feel the impact of these budget allocations for years to come, even if we can't quite see them as easily as we can see the OB Pier. So thank you to everyone for coming out today, and now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, District 9 Council Member Sean Elo Rivera, who I appointed to take my place as chair of the city's environmental committee, and has done such a wonderful job, and also is a wonderful representative of District 9. Sean.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Again, my name is Sean Elo Rivera, and I am proud to represent San Diego's 9th District. I'm very excited and appreciative to share this space with Mayor Gloria, Senate President Pro Tem Atkins, Assemblymember Ward, and Council President Campbell, who all work so hard for our city and our region. I want to just start by saying how grateful I am to have such strong representation in Sacramento from our San Diego delegation. Toni and Chris are both tremendous voices in the state legislature, and the city is fortunate to have them both fighting to ensure San Diegans receive our fair share of state dollars. And I'll talk about that more a little bit later. This California state budget is going to bring transformative investments to our city. It will advance equity in the region, improve the quality of life for our residents, and demonstrate our commitment to tackling our city's toughest issues, specifically housing affordability and homelessness. Although these issues are broad in nature, their impact is local and personal. There are communities in the city that have been ignored for generations and have seen parks, libraries, housing, and jobs focused in higher resource neighborhoods, year after year, leaving little room for upward mobility and leaving a diminished quality of life. I'm heartened that the 9th Council District will see a renewed attention to Southcrest and Choyas Creek, as the state budget will provide millions of dollars in stormwater improvements and electrical upgrades. It's time these regional assets be recognized for their value to the community, and that these communities receive the infrastructure that is deserved for all neighborhoods in America's finest city. Residents will see and feel these upgrades. Better water quality, improved lighting, expansion of park access. These are the things that allow communities to thrive and residents from all walks of life to reach their full potential. I'm also grateful that the California state budget also secures funding for the big picture issues that affect us all. San Diego will see billions of dollars in rental and utility assistance be made available to residents. Flexible funding for local agencies and expanding Project HomeKey, even innovative ideas such as Universal Basic Income Pilot to support foster youth and pregnant mothers. We've already seen how these programs and investments are changing and, quite honestly, saving lives. Tens of thousands of San Diego families will be able to sleep with a roof over their head, and our city will be able to continue programs and services to help our unsheltered neighbors for years to come. That's why I want to thank our governor for his leadership and commitment during our state's recovery from this pandemic. And as I stand here, I can't help but reflect on how appreciative and meaningful partnerships amongst different levels of government and by multiple elected officials can be for our communities. Immediately upon taking office, the mayor and his team went to work talking to his friends in the Capitol about San Diego's needs. And he took the same time to hear from council members about our district-specific needs. Assemblymember Ward and Senate Pro Tem Atkins each took time and then had their teams follow up to find out how they could best support each neighborhood in San Diego. And the governor made several trips to District 9 communities and took time to listen to who we are and what we need. All of this required intentionality, effort, and partnership, and everyone is better off for it. I hope we as elected leaders can take the improved and increased coordination between state and local governments developed during COVID-19 and make sure that our vigilant, strong communications between governments continue permanently moving forward. Again, everyone benefits when we partner like this. Funding is the first step in providing public service. Doing the work comes next, and I look forward to working with you all to bring this budget to life. Thank you, everyone.
Well said, council member. I just want to wrap this up. I know it's been a little bit long, but there's a lot in here. We're not even covering everything that is in the state budget for the San Diego region and for the city of San Diego. I tell you, if we put a list of it together, it'd be longer than a CVS receipt. I mean, that's how many things we were able to get thanks to the leadership of many of the folks who are here today. And to put it in some context, the American Rescue Plan passed by President Biden and our friends in Congress sent the city slightly less than $300 million. As you've already heard, this is over $200 million. That's the scale of what we're talking about in terms of transformative change at a time when this city and our communities in the San Diego region need it the most. I want to just wrap up by thanking my government affairs team. As Councilmember Elo Rivera mentioned, when I ran for mayor, I said that I want to make sure that I use my experiences working at the county, the state, and the federal government to make sure that San Diego gets its fair share. I think it's reasonable to say when you look at the American Rescue Plan and the benefits from the state budget, we are getting our fair share in San Diego, and it's about time. I want to thank my government affairs team, as Sean mentioned, doing the day-to-day work to make those connections, identify the priorities and the projects, and then have receptive delegation members to get the job done. $50 million for pure water. We're going to tell you some more about that in August when we break ground on this largest ever in city history infrastructure project that will make us more water independent, more drought resistant. You all know why that's so important. The OB Pier, San Vicente, $3.7 million for Balboa Park. Thank you, Assemblymember Ward. Wouldn't have been possible without him. Millions for the Choyas Creek, which we are going to have an item for council shortly about making that our city's newest regional park. And I want to drive this one home because City Attorney Mara Elliott is not here today, but $1 million for gun violence restraining order trainings across the state of California. San Diego has been a leader in making sure that those who suffer from mental illness or who are likely to engage in crime do not have access to guns. This is going to continue with this $1 million allocation from the state. Wrapping up, I would tell you that while we have two of our great delegation members here today, there are many more who were real heroes in this process. I want to thank Assemblymember Akilah Weber, who secured funding for critical transportation safety projects in Encanto and in Paradise Hills. Assemblymember Brian Mainshine, who got funding for the Mission Trails Regional Park and Recreation Center improvements in Rancho Bernardo. Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, who secured millions of dollars for Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center to restore the park's iconic murals. And last but certainly not least, Senator Ben Hueso, who secured funding to renovate the old Logan Heights Library. This historic gem will be restored and returned to its useful life in that important neighborhood in our city because of his leadership. This is what's in our state budget. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to explain it to you. All of us are available for one-on-ones. And to people of OB, sorry for commandeering your peer for about a half an hour. But in exchange for about $8 million, I think that that's time well spent. Thank you all very much for being here today.